a day down. You can drink beer during lunch, and he's got his whiskey going. He says, you better open up one. So I opened up one. It was my Chapter 7 paperwork. And I looked at him and go, what's this mean, Top? He says, I'm throwing your ass out of the Army. You're crazy. You're one of my best troops in the field, but you drink too much. You fight too much. You're just out of control. And son, you're just not going to make it. I opened up the next folder. It was a Green Beret application. I said, what's this about? He goes, the only place your crazy ass is going to make it in the Army is in the Green Berets. And he said, that's where you need to go. And I said, damn, Top. I said, can I think about it? He goes, oh, no, right now, son. He's drinking his coffee and whiskey. He's like, right now. I'm like, I said, man, if I go home, my dad will bury me. I said, I'm going to try that Green Beret stuff, Top. He goes, good decision. He said, when I see orders, I'll shred this. And he put my Chapter 7 paperwork in there. So basically, a wonderful, wonderful Vietnam vet made a decision for me that absolutely saved my life, changed my life. And what's funny is 2.5 years ago, one of my buddies became a private investigator, and I had him contact that first sergeant. And I called up the house. His wife answered the phone and said, hey, is Top Braxton there? She goes, no, Sonny, he's sleeping. I go, ma'am, I just want to tell him thank you because back in 1983, he made me make a decision. He made me make a decision that changed my life, probably saved it. And I just want to say thank you. She goes, hold on, Sonny. So Top Braswell comes on the phone. He goes, can I help you? And I said, Top, you were my first sergeant there. And you made me that. I told him the whole story. And he goes, I don't remember you, son. I said, first sergeant, that's not what's important. What's important is I just want you to know you did a great thing, and I am absolutely thankful. I just want to say thank you. He said, okay. And he hung up. So yeah, that's how I ended up going into Special Forces.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why is Green Beret so sought after? What makes them so special?
Well, I mean, we do have several special operations entities out there. You've got, Delta Force. You've got, on the Army side, we got Rangers. You got Special Forces. You got Navy's got their SEALs. Air Force has Pararescue and CCT. Marines got Force Recon. What made me Green Beret so legendary is that they were the kind of guys that go down range and they just do risky, dangerous stuff. And that time, Delta Force had pretty much just come online in the early 80s, and that wasn't an option. I didn't know too much about what they did. It was mostly counterterrorism, still is. But the Green Berets were absolutely the epitome of the Army, and to me, and I wanted to try it. And I had talked to my first sergeant about it, and he goes, because he was one, I was like, what's it like, Top, So what makes us different is that we're the guys that go down range and get the other guys to fight for the country. A 12-man A-team can train, equip, and field a 144-person battalion. What does that mean? 12 guys save 144 Americans from going down range. And we teach them everything they need to know to fight a war or fight an insurgency and take over a country. And we have to speak the language. You have to be, smart. You have to have a good GT scores. But it is just the most amazing job in the world. And I must have loved it because I dream about being back in the Army at least twice a week. But it's just a great place to be. It's a small team of men. You get to know each other. Their wives, your moms, and you got team. I mean, it's just such a tight, well knit community of people that just love each other, man. It's just a really great place to be. Still got a green hat on too.
Love it.
I want to give Dorothy an opportunity to ask questions because I got like 500 firing in my brain.
Well, go ahead because I'm trying to go ahead. I'll go ahead.
Okay. So after, once you're a Green Beret, you're in for the rest of your career, correct? Unless you do something stupid.
If you want to be at that, so when you're a Green Beret, the only people that ever left Special Forces while I was in, got asked to leave because they were not good Green Berets, very, very few. And then a couple of officers decided that they didn't like empowered. So on a Green Beret, on an A team, everybody's a sergeant. They're different, sergeants, staff sergeant, sergeant first class. And you're very empowered. Like, there's no real rank structure on an A team. If you're a captain and you just got to the team, you just shush, do your job. We're in the infantry. The captain's the company commander. He tells you what to do. On an A team, we've been there, 5, 8 times, 10 years. A lot of officers sometimes cannot handle that level of familiarization that's on an A team, because you really got to earn your respect. Rank doesn't mean anything on an A team. I mean, I've taken E6s and put them in charge of E7s because they were the better, Bravo, or the better engineer. So you're there for life, man. You're there for life. As a matter of fact, the reason I left the Army is that I had that kind of reputation with a big mouth that they were going to send me back to the conventional infantry as a sergeant major. And I said, no, you're not. And they go, yeah, we really don't like you anymore. Is what they were telling me. The command sergeant majors, because I'd get in their face, and when things weren't right, I just let people know, because I like taking care of people. Mm-hmm. And so when they said, no, that's your only option, I said, all right. I retired. I got out of the Army. If I couldn't be a Green Beret, I didn't want to be in the Army.
So then you did contracting work after that. How many years did you serve total in the Army?
I was there for 21 years. Yeah. Wow. Made sergeant major in 18. And by the time you get done with a 9-month school, you're in for 19. And I had to do 2 years to keep the rank. But this was before the towers fell. So the Army was still the Army. We didn't have, as a matter of fact, when the towers fell, I tried to get back in, and they told me, yeah, you got enough. We got enough of you sergeant majors. And I said, well, what if I punch a colonel and lose a couple stripes? And I said, no. I was like, dang it. So, yeah. But, so I did 21 years.
I do have a question.
Wow.
Because you said you dream about even now going back in. So what is it about being in the Army that is driving you to get back in?
I think it's just, honestly, the brotherly love. I mean, that was, I had the most amazing men with me that worked for me over the years, and I just missed the camaraderie. I mean, the closest thing I've had is when I'm on a rugby team. You just fight together on the field, and you go drink a couple beers, and I miss that. I'm now in charge of analytics companies, software companies, and they're good people. They're great Americans. They love their job, but I grew up in the Army. I was 17 years old. I never had a real father. Most of my mentorship father figures were all military service people that just saw something in me and decided to take care of me. So I just think I miss it. I don't miss this, it's not that it was the structure, because we don't have structure in the Green Berets. We're the guys that just make it happen. We don't care. But I think I just miss the camaraderie. I don't have that feeling of just brotherhood out here in the civilian world that I had in the military all those years.
That is the biggest challenge for people who are transitioning out, is the lack of people who got your six. At the end of the day, all these people, like, no matter what you do, boy, they got your back. It's very unconditional love. And then when you transition into the civilian world, it's like all for yourself.
Yeah. And then you figure, 95% of the guys go, they go somewhere where they don't have the close friends. And it's hard to make close friends, at a bar, or try to meet other military people that you haven't gone to war with or trained with, right, or whatever. It's really hard to build that. So a lot of guys suffer in silence. They miss it. A lot of people that get out, because they're upset or, whatever. They said, FTA, right? F the Army. That's the big term when you're short. A lot of them try to get back in, and those doors are closed for the most part. Now they're open. I mean, they'll welcome me back. We have a little bit of a problem attracting the right people. I got a solution for that. I do. So kind of lost track of where it was there, but that's, it is hard once you get out there to replicate what you have in the Army. You don't realize, like the old song says, you don't know what you have till it's gone.
Right. So I want you to kind of, I mean, you're very desensitized. Sorry, Dorothy. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, if you can talk about it, what is your favorite mission?
What was my favorite mission?
Yeah.
I participated in the war in El Salvador for 15 months. And on that particular mission, the Army literally dropped me off on a hillside, which was an El Salvadorian, what they call a destacamento, or a fort. They gave me a radio and a gun, and they said, call back every Sunday, basically let us know you're still alive. And they dropped me off for 9 months, man.
That's a whole lot of tequila.
Heck yeah, man. They don't drink tequila down there. They got hooch. They got some nasty stuff that they make down there. Mostly beer. But yeah, I mean, I could barely speak Spanish too. I kind of bullshitted. I'm sorry. Kind of faked my way a little bit on.
Oh, no,
I knew how to take tests. No.
This is your podcast. You can say whatever you want.
I couldn't. No, I got other podcasts. I got to be kind of cool, but no, I really I loved it, man. You know, I took I trained the guys. I took them out. We had a pretty quiet area. But to be completely immersed in a culture like that for all that time was just amazing. And, you know, and the fact that the Army trusted me as an E7, I was 28 years old. And they gave me 2 battalions of troops, and they said, do the best you can. And all of us did a really, really good job teaching them how to fight a war legitimately. You know, you can't torture people, you can't do this, you know, this is how you fight, you know, looking at their training programs, taking them out. All of us went out. We weren't supposed to leave the wire, what we call leaving the wire. So we were prohibited under our orders from leaving our quartels. I think we go out 1 or 2 clicks at night and 3 clicks during the day just for training, but you couldn't accompany your troops on combat operations. Well, everybody I know did that. You know, we went out, we called them training missions, but they were literally combat patrols. I didn't do too much of it. My area was pretty quiet, but I got picked to run some really cool recon training and did some other work with other. My Spanish was really good, so they started sending me around to help train and do other things. So, but that was my absolute favorite mission in the Army.
That's awesome. I really want to know about the Mac Parkman Foundation. You got home, you got out of the Army, started contracting, and I know that you're very comfortable telling this story because I watched the podcast. So I want you to share the story because this is something that is not spoken about.
No, it's not. You know, in the Army, I never got married. You know, I met only a handful of guys that could be a good dad and a good soldier. When you're a Green Beret, you're dedicated to your career, right?
Right.
So I knew there's no way I was going to be a good dad. I was so immature. I didn't start growing up till my 30s because of my childhood. So I just put it all off. And I met this really cool girl in the Sergeant Major's Academy, and we started dating just before I got out. So she kind of hung around me a lot. I'm like, wow, this girl likes me, and she's good looking. That don't happen too often. I'm like, all right. But she had 2 daughters, and so when I like, so when I proposed her, she goes, when are we going to get married? I said, when I get out. I said, you're not going to get any of my retirement with 6 months left in the Army. That's crazy. I said, so I went from single Green Beret, pirate captain, sergeant major, leader of men to, in one marriage ceremony, I had a cat, I had a dog, I had a fish tank, 2 daughters that I didn't know a damn thing about raising kids, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. I had a mortgage payment. I had more knickknacks. I had McDonald's Happy Meal toys all over the place. I was so overwhelmed with just trying to figure out what a husband and a dad all at once is going to happen. I wanted to go back into combat or something, man. It was nuts. But yeah, so we got married, and then we added our beautiful son. And I had prayed for a son my whole life. I just wanted a boy because I wanted to fix my father's mistakes. I wanted to love on a boy and not hit him, and not abuse him, and not beat on him, and not not spend time with them, ignore them. I said, this ain't right. I want to break the cycle. So we welcomed that boy, and that boy became Mac. He became the glue that helped our company. I mean, our family, my girls, I love them girls so much. They were 8 and 10, but they already had a dad. He wasn't really present. So, here I am, I come in, I take their mom away, right? So there was a little bit of angst there. Then I moved them from El Paso to Albuquerque because I finally got a job when I got out, because nobody was hiring back then. I was getting ready to become a security mall cop or a Walmart greeter because I couldn't find a job. Nobody hired. I didn't know, the Army didn't teach you how to, spread your word. There was no, it took 5 minutes over AOL to send a resume, all this craziness. I couldn't work a computer. And so we had our challenges, and then Mac was born when I was I was literally jumping the berm in Iraq, and I hadn't figured out a name yet. It was going to be Maximus from my favorite movie, Gladiator, or McConnell, which is my wife's maiden name. And so I'm sitting in Iraq. I won my first contract. I built the WMD search capability for the United States military, and I didn't know how to run a company, so I just went. So I'm sitting there. It's my 4th different combat zone. My wife's 9 months pregnant, and I haven't picked a name out. So I'm like, what do I do? Well, it turned out that the chaplain there was the chaplain when I was a sergeant major in 10th Special Forces Group, and he did not like me because my position on family bake sales and family support groups and all that stuff that's crap. We're here to train and fight and drink, and I'm going to bring these men back. I don't care about your stupid bake sales. And so anyways, he ended up being the unit, chaplain there. We run into each other in Iraq. And I was like, hey, sir.
Man, what'd they do to you?
Well, I just say, man, no, I got nothing against wives. I was like, but don't interfere with my training and drinking time, because that's the attitude I need to get your men home. They ain't going to come home participating in bake sales. They're going to come home because they're mean and grouchy and they know how to fight, and they're going to kill, and they're going to come home. And then we're going to take care of them, which is what we're learning how to do now. We haven't learned how to take care of our veterans that have come back from combat yet, but we'll get to that. So here I am without a name, and I met the chaplain's like, oh, Sergeant Major. I go, hey, sir. And he finds me one day. He says, Sergeant Major, I need a hand. I said, what's up, sir? He says, none of these kids have ever been to combat. You've been in combat. Al Dempsey's been in combat. Can you train us? And I said, hell yeah, sir. So we started doing our jobs at night, planning for the invasion. And during the day, we trained our military soldiers how to conduct ambushes, get on helicopters, how to do convoy operations, how to clear buildings. We did this all day long, right? Because they were good kids, man. They didn't know. They were scared. And so I went to him and I said, hey, sir, I need a favor. And he said, what do you need? I said, I know you got booze. You're a chaplain. I know you got that wine stuff. I said, I got to pick a name. He said, what? I said, yeah, I'm down to 2 names, sir, but I don't know which one. And the boy's going to be born every day. He goes, I'll be right back. So he comes back and he got a little case of those little 8-ounce bottles of Sutter Home wine, those little tiny bottles.
Yeah.
And I got drunk for the first time in 6 months. and at the end of it, I picked the name, and next day he was born. And by that time, the invasion had started. And she's on the table. She goes, what's his name? I go, honey, it's McConnell. She goes, thank you. Click. She was like, it was coming, And so, we had Mac, and then I didn't see him until I got back from the war. And I got this beautiful little boy. But anyways, long story short, I ended up with the most amazing boy. I mean, he was such a pleasure in so many ways. I couldn't even believe he was mine. He was, just loving and giving and caring and honorable, and he was a follower of our Lord, and the kid was just amazing, handsome. And he wanted to play, when at age 6 he started wrestling, and then he would follow his friends. We played hockey and we played a little bit of rugby, and then he kept wrestling, and then we would ski every year, which is another form of contact sports. So anyways, at the age of 17, my son had been playing contact sports for a long time. He was a blindside football player, and nobody touched the quarterback if my son was the blindside guy. He was a wrestling guy. He was getting ready to be captain that year, and he had been skiing and snowboarding for years. Black diamonds, double black diamonds. But he had been suffering with undiagnosed mental illness for about 3 years, severely depressed. He was schizophrenic, and he just didn't know how to tell us. And he kept this face on. That's why he was so stoic. And we didn't know what apathy was. Like, because he could laugh, he could have so much fun around you. But at night, he was going through horrible, horrible times. And schizophrenics get told to do very, very bad things. And in the end, my son decided to leave us behind. And I was the last guy to see him. He came up to me. It was during COVID. I was working so hard to keep the company going. And he's like, Dad, I'm going to football. And I'm like, all right. And like every day, man, I kiss the water's cheek. And I say, hey, man, make the decisions. He goes, I will. Had no idea at all, man. And then an hour later, my phone blew up. It was my daughter screaming that he was going to hurt himself. I'm like, I just saw him, man. I just saw him. What's going on? They go, no, he's going to hurt himself. He's on Pulpit Rock, which is it's a 100-foot cliff. It's right in the middle of Colorado Springs. So I took off. I put on some shoes. I had no socks. I said, I'm going to go the back way because I run that park all the time. It was only a mile and a half away from the house. And so I got there. I was just running around screaming his name. I couldn't even imagine. And then for the next 20 hours, we looked for that boy. We found his shoes. We looked for him all night long. We're in dumpsters and we in every housing because his phone still kept pinging. Like, because him and my wife and my daughters are all on this, find your friend plan, And so his phone kept pinging and sent us all over this area because we kept thinking he was alive. Oh, he's over here. He's over here. He's over here. The next day, we looked till 5 a.m. I got home and I told my wife, I said, I'm bringing Mac back. And I went back out. I got my gun because I was going to go down to some really dirty areas where there's homeless camps. And I went out and I looked and I was on the rock when the sun came out. And I didn't even know it, but he was right below me. And God had, when he jumped off the cliff, he ran off the cliff. It put him in a crevice right between a whole bunch of rocks that were like 8 or 10 feet high. Like you couldn't see in the crevice. We were all around that place with 150 people. And finally, my wife was out of her mind. She convinced the cops to finally bring the dogs in. And I was gone. And I said, hey, come back. We got news. So I came back and this guy came up to me, this turd that was kind of, I'll talk the whole story later on, but he was taking advantage of my family to tell the school what was going on because the school started to get a little scared because he left school. He was at football practice and disappeared. Now, and it turns out they found him. He had taken his life. And I'd never thought about killing myself before, and I had that pistol. It was loaded, and I was like, my mind imploded, man. I was like so angry, frustrated, just scared, sad, grief, all the same time. And I was like, what am I going to do now, man? Oh man! And I started going down a bad path, and I looked over, and my wife and my daughters were all hugging themselves uncontrollably, and they're all sitting on the ground. They couldn't even stand up, and I'm like, I can't leave them behind. So I unloaded the gun, put it in my pocket, went over there and hugged them, and then we started getting on. And people need to understand that when your kid takes their life, you don't know what to do, especially when you have no idea why. Like we didn't have, he didn't have a drug record, a fighting record. He never was incarcerated. This is a model child. And so, because we didn't know what was going on in that week, all we knew is there was a lot of crime going on. The football team was breaking into my house. They broke into his car. They were trying to get into his wall locker. And we found out that the football team was selling drugs to my son. And he was using marijuana because almost all schizophrenics end up with marijuana helps out schizophrenia better than any SSRI or drug that's known. And almost all schizophrenics find marijuana somehow. And that's what was keeping my son alive at night. He would smoke a little bit, calm down, get some sleep. But he was basically living in insomnia for a while. But anyways, long story short, because of that crime, this is how God works in my life. We had one of the leading forensic pathologists in the country. My daughter's a lawyer and wanted to talk to us. And he asked us, what are you going to do with the body? And we said, well, we're going to cremate it. He goes, why are you going to do that? I'm like, well, because he's going to have a service. He goes, well, I think there's coercion here. And if there is, how are you going to prove that something happened to have the body? So long story short, we kept the body. And then we waited on the autopsy report. And this was the other thing that kept me going is the coroner, told me, hey, Bruce, it's a suicide. I said, all right, sir. I want you to know why a son that was never abused, physically, emotionally, sexually, who had an amazing life, who was loved so much, that was such a wonderful kid, is not here. And he goes, have you ever heard of CTE? And I said, no, what's that? He said, it's that football disease. You should probably take a look. He said, did he play contact sports? I said, yes. He said, for how long? I said, since he was 6. I said, he was good at it. And he goes, you might want to check into that. And that's what changed the whole game. I found Karen Siegel. There's another person you need to have on your podcast there from stopct.org. She listened to my story. She goes, oh, my God, Bruce, your son never had a chance. I go, from what? She goes, his brain. I go, what about his brain? Because I didn't know anything. And she sent me to the Concussion Legacy Foundation. They sent me to Boston University, who called me up. They go, hey, man, we're sorry. I go, why? They said, your son would have been an amazing donation. But, it's been 3 months and he's been cremated or buried, whatever. I go, no, I still got the body. And they're like, what? And, yeah, they couldn't believe it. They called up the coroner. They called up the funeral home, and we made a full donation. So, that's when we started understanding not only did my son die from playing too much contact sports, but that we as a society, as a medical community, as a parental community, are completely uneducated on what we're doing with these kids' brains while they're developing. And I ended up writing that book so that somebody would be able to read something and not be dumb like me and save their kids. So sorry for the long story, but that's what happened.
Powerful. And sorry for your loss, Bruce. There's really no words other than sorry. And, I hear a lot about kids with concussions by playing sports. I know, I won't say who, but one of the children has had so many concussions playing hockey that they're almost blind. And that scares me. I pull my kid off the freaking ice no matter how much they want to play. But again, it's, a parent doesn't want to go either way on that because you never know what's going to happen, right? And so what would you say to the parents nowadays that have their kids in contact sports?
Well, first, I would say 2 things. First of all, the reason that these kids' brains are being impacted so much is that you can play more contact sports than ever. Like my son was a back-to-back-to-back contact sports guy because I didn't know it was dangerous. You can play football year-round. And we need to understand that brain is growing. Like when they go through synaptogenesis between 11 and 13, there's an earlier period from 1 to 2 that happens. That brain explodes with billions of new synaptic and neuronal growth. Like that brain is growing every day. And you don't impact the complexity of an organ like the brain if you want your child to be all that they could be, right? So what I would say to parents is, look, you should play brain safe sports at least till high school if you want to give your kid a chance. And then in high school, if you want to roll the dice, I would say contact sports should be an adult occupation. That is my position. 18, you're an adult, you want to smoke dope, you want to serve your country, you want to shoot a gun, all right, go for it, man. You want to hurt your head, but be informed that there's risk. We have millions of athletes that play these sports, and they are uninformed. There's no informed consent here, right? That you are uninformed, which makes it even worse because we've been assuming these sports are safe. We've been groomed by the NFL and the NHL and the USA Rugby and all these organizations because
call coming in.
I mean, you couldn't play none of this stuff. Now you can play for the town, you can play for the school, you can play for these crazy travel leagues, and they're all pushing these kids. And the parents are crazier than the kids. I had a guy come over to an organization that we're buddies with called Head Safe out of the UK, and people don't realize how many soccer players have taken their lives. How many soccer players are suffering in mental illness because that ball moves at 100 up to 140 miles an hour as a professional soccer kid, and they're putting their head in front of that puppy too, right? So, and they told us, man, American parents, I mean, English fans are nuts. American fans are crazy stupid. So I would say, if you're gonna run the gamut, you think your child is gonna play in the NFL, which they're not. But if you really think they are, wait till high school and then, play one sport and let them rest the rest of the year. And they'll be dinged up a little bit. And then, and if they're going to play in Division I after that, go, because the brain doesn't mature till 25. So I would say brain safe sports till 18. If you're going to do it in high school, then play one sport and don't get wrapped up in it, because your kid's not going to be on a box of Wheaties. He's not going to be playing in the NFL or NHL. And if he is, and he starts if he came in high school or as a sophomore, I know one professional sports mom that will not let their kids play till 16, because you cannot hide talent. If you're that talented where you're going to end up in a professional sports league, nobody starting at the age of 8 is not going to make that any better, because you've got natural talent,
Right.
And then I will also tell the parents, look, the brain is the most complex organ in your body, encased in a hard, bony structure it's floating in fluid. Okay. There is absolutely no way. There is no technology. There is no science. There is no magic that can prevent that brain from shaking. So anybody that tells you that helmets are good or gotten better, nope. So yeah, I would tell parents, if you love your children and you want them to be all they can be, it's going to be their brain that gets them through life, not sports. And to really delay playing contact sports till the brain's more developed and more resilient.
Thank you for that. Definitely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thank you very much for letting me pitch it, man. I was very, very passionate about it. We're raising hell right now because of the level of ignorance. I mean, now we're seeing it in our veterans. It's called repeated blast exposure. With athletes, it's called repetitive head impacts. But now we're seeing, I mean, all these soldiers. I'll tell you right now, when we open this Pandora's box and we look at how soldiers' brains have been impacted by their jobs. Do you know that we have 1 million incarcerated veterans in America, and that none of them have been assessed for the impact of their military jobs on their brain, which could quite probably have resulted in the mental illness that put them in jail?
100%.
I have 6 clients right now that I'm fighting to get an MRI for. Literally.
Don't get it.
Fight.
Do not get a functional MRI. The 3 scans that right now can diagnose changes to the brain at the microcellular level is a QEEG, is a functional MRI, and a DTI scan. Those three tests right there can give some validation that there's been changes to the brain that then will require, a neurological back. But this is how easy it is. There is a condition out there called TES, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome. And that takes 4 questions. If you said, do you have a mental illness? Or number 1, do you have exposure in either to RHI for contact sports or repeated blast exposure from a veteran's perspective, tanker, artillery, EOD, master bleacher, parachutist, whatever it is. And do you have a mental illness? And is it progressing? If those 3 are yes, and that last question, do you have any genetic predisposition to mental illness? And that's a no. Then the probability of a brain injury contributing to that mental illness is very, very high, and you need to get it checked out. But I have no doubt that you're fighting as hard as you can to get those people checked out, because nobody wants to hear this. They really are running for cover on this one, I think.
I've been pretty blessed to connect with Dr. McCarthy, and I mean, obviously she connected me to you. So she said hi, by the way. So
Melissa.
I let her know you were on the podcast. Yeah, so I connect with her quite often. Like, how do I get these guys to get these MRIs done so that they can get to you? Because we have to jump through 18 hoops to get one diagnosis. You know how this works. So
Right.
it's just a matter blurry vision is a huge indicator of a traumatic brain injury. And you think, oh, I need glasses. Well, you might have a TBI.
Yeah, glasses
If you
don't
have
fix
headaches
it.
and there are a couple other symptoms that collectively are with the blurry vision, it's like, oh man, I might actually have a TBI instead of just I need reading glasses.
Right? No, it's something that we're still trying to. Nobody is properly assessing these guys for what we call, MTBI, or long-term RBE exposure. It's just starting to happen right now. But when you look back on, the 160, 200,000 suicides that have taken place since these wars began, you look at all the bad conduct discharges and other than honorable discharges, and you might think that a percentage of them, and I don't think it's a very small percentage, could be attributed to the fact that these men and women they didn't commit no crime. They wanted to serve their country, and they did. And we did not take care of them. You look back at that carnage right now, and when we start understanding that brain injury right now from a societal perspective, if we treated everybody that screwed up in life, whether they're going to jail or they're mentally ill from a brain injury perspective, and we looked at healing the brain, we could get people out of jail. We could get them back to work. We can get them back on the streets. We can get them back off drugs. But our approach to mental illness is drugs and therapy. And when the suicide rate has not changed in 20 years, then what we're doing, which is drugs and therapy, is not working. If it's not getting better, why do we keep doing the same dumbass thing? So that's where the stuff that you're trying to do, Dr. Royster, is so important, by getting their brain scanned, which gives validation to the fact that they have injury. And I had to educate the VA on my disability case, on what was going on, because I had a mental breakdown. I had severe depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I was eating; it was driving me batty. But there's all these new things out there: stellate ganglion blocks. You got brain supplementation. You got all the technical modalities. You got psychedelics. These things are saving soldiers' lives, and they're all out of pocket or paid for by foundations. Not one of them is covered by VA or TRICARE. And we're writing legislation right now to pilot a program in Florida where we're going to make all these treatments available for soldiers for free. They're just going to be able to do it.
I will tell you, I am connected. We are connected to Dr. Duturi, who is actually the dean of a portion. He's in an area of University of South Florida. I've told you about this, but I want to put it on the podcast. Is he's actually in the middle of August. I'm going to start connecting him to certain veterans that have been diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury, because he received some pretty big grants where he can get, hyperbaric treatment, a 40 cycle of hyperbaric treatment for the veteran for free, as long as they live in Florida.
Yes, ma'am. No, I think it's one of the I think right now Joe's running the largest HBOT program I've ever heard of, and I think it's amazing. We got to get the word out. It would be nice to see if he's full, and if not, then I'll work with you to push the word out even. He's not.
I used his office. Okay. I used his office Thursday. I had to sit down with him. He's not full. So he's starting to take emails the middle of August. So you can start connecting him in a couple weeks.
I'll reach out. There's some nonprofits that can reach out.
That's awesome.
He spoke at our conference. We ran the only conference in the world. That's how, that's how pissed off we were. Is there's not even a conference. This is the largest untalked about issue in the world right now, which is RHI and RBE and mental illness. Forget about CTE and concussions. You can heal from a concussion and you die with CTE. You don't die from it. You die from the mental illness that's caused by the changes to your brain that these sports do, or that explosions do, right? So we were so pissed off, we created the first conference in the world on RHI, and we held it this March. And Joe DeTuri found us. He goes, I want to speak. We was like, come on up, man. So we're going to have this in D.C. next year. This is the second international summit on a repeated head injury and repeated blast explosion.
So what does RHI stand for
repeated, us? Repetitive or repeated head impacts.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
you hear MTBI.
Dr. McCarthy. We'll both be there.
Oh, they're great people. Oh, it's going to be great, man. And you know that there's a TBI symposium coming up on August 22nd. I sent you a link to that. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, please come
See you there.
Yeah, man, you can grab all kinds of people for the podcast. I'll introduce you to them. Don't worry about it.
Yay! Awesome for Dorothy. Dorothy's like, I got to do the paperwork for this. She's kind of like Denny. She's the media lady. Like she's got all this situation.
I have no
I'm lucky
problem,
if I don't
guys.
click a button and shut stuff down. I don't know how to do this.
Freaking form is all I ask.
Yeah, no, man, I think it's great. I think it's very smart. You're a good producer.
Well, thank you.
I
received that, and that's coming from Green Beret, guys. Like seriously, the top of the top.
I've been on a few podcasts. This one's not. This is a very well done podcast. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Well, I really, I want you to expand upon what you're doing, where you're going, what you want to see.
Where do I want to see? Yeah, as I get older, I do want to see world peace. I used to make fun of that back in my day, but
you're funny.
I'm getting more generative in age, and I really dislike this world we're leaving behind for our kids. And I want to make everything I can do to change it. So what I would like to see is I would like to see a world where we understand the impact of sports on and military service on brains, as well as our first responders, and that we stop telling people to suck it up when they're hurt. And we as a society, we delay contact sports till at least high school through legislation, preferably 18, but we're never going to get some of these contact sports out of high school. But we now inform our society. I mean, we already know you don't drink and drive. We already tell parents, don't give your kids, drugs. Don't let them do this. Don't let them do that. Why don't we let them know that these sports are risky for their kids' brain health? And I want to see a world where we are brain aware, not brain dumb. And that we look at the impact of, whatever we do. And then on the military side, I want to see a military that admits that we did not. I want to see a VA in the military that admits we could have done a better job with our soldiers. And we're going to go back and we're going to look at every suicide. And we're going to look at every bad conduct discharge and other honorable discharge. And we are going to objectively look and see, could these men and women have been impacted by the military service and the resulting punishment was, too much, like they had to leave the Army, or these suicides that were labeled. So when somebody gets hurt in the military, you always have what's called line of duty. Did you get hurt in the line of duty or not in the line of duty? So if you got your face busted in a bar at night, a country bar or whatever, man, and you got popped and you had to go to the TMC, well, obviously that wasn't in the line of duty, all right? So that means you really, you don't get coverage for that when you get out of the Army if you got hurt. Well, these suicides, a lot of them, because they took place off military installations, were not given line of duty coverage. So I'm not absolutely sure on this, but that means that, spouses don't get all the coverage that they should have got because, they looked at. So I want to see a military where we mitigate and monitor blast exposure. We still have the most lethal military in the world, but we take care of our veterans. We recognize that their jobs, tankers, artillery, is going to impact their brain, and that's taken into account when they retire and they get disability payments for it. But during their job, during their time in the military, we do a better job at mitigating that exposure so we don't hurt them as much. They're going to get hurt a little bit because you just can't. You got to have tankers, you got to have mortarmen. But if we monitor and mitigate the exposure, we could actually make it almost perfectly safe. Hell, if we took exposure, if we took contact out of the practices in high school, we could eliminate between 60 and 80% of that exposure, which means they can play in high school. They can play in college and in the NFL. And when they're done, they're not like all my NFL buddies, which are absolute disasters, because they're hurt, so yeah, that's right. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm pushing for, advocating for, writing legislation for, going on the Hill, because we just cannot do this to our children. My son should be here. I didn't know. I made mistakes. I should have recognized his apathy was a sign of him hurting, but he was so far gone. I don't know if it would have helped him. And if I would have found the drugs, I don't know how to act it as a dad. I mean, I just don't know. But my son should be here. And this happens thousands of times in this country. My son is one of thousands of suicides. And our coroners and our suicide prevention people are not even aware that sports or the military service could have been the cause of why they're calling up the suicide hotline or running off cliffs. So they're misdiagnosed, family doesn't have any closure, or people are improperly, they're given a lot of drugs. They've got a physiological condition that needs to be addressed. Why aren't we fixing the brain? The brain can be fixed. The brain can be healed, but not if you don't try, right? If you just drug it up, man, it doesn't get any better.
Well, it's also, the aversion while you're active duty to be diagnosed with anything, I mean, it's both. It's, I don't want to be labeled. I don't want the stigma. I don't. I mean, I work with active duty every day that are like, don't put down PTSD. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And here's why. And they're like, oh, yeah. Okay. Put that down. But I think we do it in the vet courts as well, because when we do psychological evaluations to determine, where the state of mind of this veteran was when he committed this crime. If there are people who are certified and they're very proficient at their job, but they're not service informed.
No, they're not.
There are a lot of psychologists out there that are very good at what they do. However, they do not take into consideration that these individuals served in wars.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
That really frustrates me. And I am working very hard on informing the civilian community within what I do for a living, the therapists and psychologists. It's like, you can't look at somebody who served our country like you can look at somebody who is a mailman.
You're absolutely
Their brains are wired differently because they're trained differently.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have the same diagnosis.
No, you're absolutely right. And they're also not trained to ask them questions about military service or even contact sports before they came in the military to understand that there could be a physiological cause or at least some contribution to the mental illness. And it's going to require a lot more than you talking to that person all day to help him or her get right.
And the assessments are derived, they're civilian. So the assessments that we even use, I think there's only one or two that I know of that the VA actually uses that is specifically designed for veterans. The rest of them are civilian. So how can you correctly diagnose these individuals? So that's my challenge. That's what I'm fighting for.
Yeah. Well, good for you. When you get that assessment, all I want to do is add those 4 questions to it. If every psychologist would ask those 4 questions, just that 4 questions right there, and any assessment and any intake, we could at least start identifying these soldiers and getting them the help they need. And we're not doing that. That's I'm right there with you. You let me know how I can help you on that. I got those 4 questions out pat.
Bruce, I have my own private practice, and I see a lot of veterans and active duty individuals, and I would be honored if you would email me those questions, and I will create an intake form.
You would be on the map right now because we're working So those 4 questions were validated by the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Strokes. But I mean, they were proposed.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, you can't use them for prime time because I haven't been validated. I'm like, really? You're who cares? Just ask the questions and start the process. So we're looking to fund research right now where we want to, get a whole, or it doesn't even take funding, just work with, mental health facilities, suicide folks, whatever it takes, folks like yourselves, that just put those 4 questions in there and see how many guys said, yeah, and how many girls said, yeah, but I've suffered from that stuff. And then,
I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
And I know that they would sign a release. Every single one of my clients would absolutely sign a release for you.
Oh, no. I mean, the issue is, too, is that with soldiers, if you're mentally ill, you're mentally ill. If you don't have a cause for it, then it's scary. It's really scary when you're struggling and you can't put a finger on what could have caused this, or whatever, right? Whether it could be childhood trauma, whatever it is, right? But when you tell people they got a brain issue and there's things they can fix it now, as a soldier, they got a mission. And that mission is, I'm going to get this fixed. But now I got to go borrow some money. I know one guy right now, he's $50,000 into his own treatments and stuff to get his brain fixed. He was an EOD guy in the Navy, been in 2 car crashes. That didn't help. But he's paying out of pocket. And I honestly think if your brain has been damaged, then, and you got insurance coverage to all these things that can help it. Yeah, I'm sorry, big pharma. You can kiss my military butt, but these things should be covered. There's no reason to be feeding these guys drugs like they're jujubes and saying, take some more, and you're having this symptom, have some more pills. I mean, my daughter's a nurse practitioner of psychiatric medicine. She'll tell you straight up, all these drugs will eventually kill you. And they're not told, that black box warning is not given to any of these soldiers when they're handed these drugs. They have no idea what they're taking and how damn hard it's going to be to get off them when they're done being a zombie. It's horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, there are a lot of them that have addictive principles. Have you ever heard of the Gray Team? GREY?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so it is a program in Boca Raton, and it's part of our Project Vet Relief program. And the Gray Team is run by David Kirkland. He's a good Army dude. I will connect you, and he can tell you all about his program he's got in Boca, because it's pretty state of the art. He's connected with a lot of cool kid people. I think Kerry is the guy who founded the Gray Team. He's not running it. David's running it. But you guys can have this conversation offline, and hopefully you can get some people what they need.
Okay. No, I'd love it, man. I'd love an introduction. Anybody that's helping troops, because we're going to be asking you all to put the word out. When we go to Tallahassee, we're going to have a big mob day where we're going to go up there with all the veterans and all the nonprofits and push hard for this legislation to get funded, so that these veterans finally have a way to get, to get awareness. They don't even know that half this stuff exists. I help out in an ayahuasca retreat, and these veterans are how they find it. They didn't even know that this existed. It's changing their lives, man. It's for the better. It's amazing what these plant medicines are doing for these struggling veterans. It really is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them that do the, MDMA and psilocybin and all that. My suggestion is just be informed. I mean, you're going to do what you want to do anyway. So, I know many people who manage their daily life and get through their jobs because of psilocybin. I've met many people, I met a couple people off the movie that the movie was about, 13 Hours. I've met a few of those individuals that the movie was about them, and they were at this event, and they were sitting at the table where I happened to be sitting, and there were a couple other people there, and they were all, talking about MDMA and SGB and all these different abbreviations for ways that can help. And I am absolutely shocked that the VA or VA Community Care Network. I mean, you fill out a form for that, and I'm part of that too, where you get a referral from your primary care physician, and then you can go outside because of the PACT Act, right? So I have a lot of people that come to me through that, And those are individuals who are not retired military, who don't have, TRICARE Prime. They have other services.
Right.
Even I was offered to go to optometry outside the military because I can't get glasses for 8 months. Right. So these are the things that you do.
Well,
But
you gotta do it. But, I mean,
they were talking about MDA, MA, and all the research and how, these different things. Some people absolutely love ayahuasca. I've never done it, and I've heard pros and cons to everything. So it's just a matter of personal preference, but they got to have the freedom to choose.
Right. And when you have these modalities
Everybody else has
where
freedom to choose.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through
Everyone
a couple
else
of these
has freedom
ayahuasca.
to choose. Sorry.
They do. It's
Everybody else has
God's second. Yeah, God's second greatest gift to us is free will.
Right. So, and I find it interesting that the civilians have a freedom to choose their treatment. If you have cancer, you can do chemo, or you can do surgery, or you can do this, or you can do that. You have all these options, right? And you become very informed. But because we have brain damage, we have to go where they tell us to go. It doesn't make sense. We're still Americans.
Good point. It's a good point. Well, I mean, a lot of these, I mean, you can, and here's what it comes down to. Here's the dirty secret. It all comes down to insurance and billing. That's it. I've met people with fascinating technologies that cannot raise one dime of investor money until they have a billing code to cover their device or their modality.
Yep.
Or now.
Oh, we lost him. There he is.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I'm pushing for now is that we need billing codes for RHI and RBE. There are none. If you go in to the doctor and you say you're mentally ill, and he says, okay, that's great. You're obviously mentally ill, right? Whatever. Well, I played contact sports for 25 years. Oh, well, I'm sorry. There's not a billing code for that. So you can't get anything covered. And not to mention that the things that you wanted that is going to help you aren't even available under insurance plans anyways right now. So we have so much work to do to take care of people's brains. I mean, this is even car crash victims. I mean, all this stuff can help car crash people, and they can't get access to it because it's not covered by insurance. So they can get plenty of drugs and talk. But, now you think of all the people that have, been impacted. 2 million people every year have a TBI. Yet all the things that can help the brain heal are not available. What kind of medical system is that?
One that's very, very slow. I mean, the insurance racket is probably 15 years behind, right? It's like, oh, we just updated the codes from 2000.
Right? Yeah. No, I hear you. Crazy. It's absolutely insane how that works. No fun. No fun. And that's, it's scary.
You're on a mission to change the world and change that for the better. And, I am grateful for the people who choose to donate and make a difference and, donate the state-of-the-art equipment and let people use their ideas and their technology, for the veterans just to attain the research to prove the efficacy.
Yes, ma'am. No, that's, and unfortunately, that's what it takes right now. Without the nonprofit community and benefactors behind them, we would have even more suicides and more tragic outcomes. And we have to act as a society. I am going to make Congress write that check. That is my mission. I'm going to stand in front. Next year, we're going to have congressional hearings. I'm going to have moms, NFL players, veterans there going, you guys are crazy. We as a society have caused more damage with our ignorance of those two issues. More tragic outcomes, with more human capital has been lost. Think of the leaders, the scientists, the researchers, the amazing moms that are no longer here or are forever impacted because we let them play contact sports too early. We just got a call from a family whose son jumped off a bridge and got run over by a truck, so they couldn't make a donation. His only crime is he'd been playing soccer and he liked to head the ball. And he would practice heading the ball a couple hundred times a day. And all those little impacts that we think are so insignificant, they don't do anything, changed his brain and caused him to be mentally ill. Now, if every parent knew that heading the soccer ball, I mean, they innately know that it sounds better, but if they know what that is preventing for their child, how many parents are going to let their kids head a ball? Now we just got to be, we just have to be brave and say, all right, hey, sorry, all you people that are making money off kids playing sports, you're just going to have to go to flag football and no-head soccer and no-check hockey and all these other brain-safe activities because this is wrong. And I think those days are coming. The pendulum's swinging. Recognition is out there. Advocacy is growing. And I think that all of us are going to see a change in this a lot faster than we thought a couple of years ago.
I just want to go back to something that you said earlier, Bruce, about when people are in active duty, when you're in the military. And for the last 3 years that I've been a veteran ally, this keeps coming up to help before they even transition. And so yearly, you guys have physicals, don't you? When you're in the military. So why the hell isn't an MRI part of the physical or some kind of TBI, whatever else they need, some kind of testing to do that? You have to have a physical yearly. Why the hell wouldn't you try something with your, fix the mental health? Not fix, because you're not broken, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Even a mental health tune-up, even a mental health evaluation.
So let's start with that before we even get to transition out, because once you start to transition out, that's a whole other fucking can of worms for you guys, which I know is, by the time you guys get to transition out, you should have already had your MRIs. You should have already had your testing for your TBIs, your function, to see mentally if you guys are okay to even, to transition out or retire early, whatever you guys need to do in order to prevent a suicide once you do get out, or suicide once you're still active duty. So I don't know. Can we write a bill for that too? We're at it, because
I'll break your heart. I mean, I was at a certain organization, and we started talking about brain assessments. They're like, oh, we've been doing these they're like a test, like you take I can't remember the name of it, but you put in the amount of TBIs you had and all this. They had done that 5 different times on 5 different systems, and all that data's been lost. Can't find it. Over 10 years. All right, and so they have nothing to go back to when they go in. But to your point, absolutely, we need to ensure that every veteran, we monitor nuclear radiation, right? You got a little dosimeter here. It'll tell you how many rads you got. If you got this many rads, you can't go back in for this many months. Okay. There's a way to do this. And when you look, I think we're more afraid of people understand these jobs can impact your brain and not doing it than we are by just making them safe in the first place, where it's all right, we're going to mitigate this. You're not going to shoot off, 200 artillery rounds in one day anymore. You're going to do 20. I mean, how much good do you get from, shooting a round out of a goddamn gun like a rifle anyway? You don't get that better. And volume is not everything. And that has been our biggest problem, is that with our veterans, and I just want to make this point, a lot of the Vietnam guys in my era, like, look at all these pansies, man, they're killing themselves, or, there's a different generation. No, they're absolutely wrong. For the 9/11 soldier, their war, in terms of repeated blast exposure, never ended. Why? Because when you're in combat, you gotta leave it all in there. You cannot control. You're gonna fight till you come home, right? So there's guns going off, high caliber weaponry, bombs, whatever it is, man. But when you come home, our Army trains as it fights. And I'm a product of the Cold War. We didn't have money back then. We didn't have all the flashbangs we could. These guys come back, and guess what? The RBE exposure doesn't end. They're training for combat. They're throwing more bombs, shooting more Carl Gustavs, shooting more high caliber rounds. So the exposure never decreases. And that's why this generation of soldiers has been more impacted by RBE in the forms of mental illness than any other generation. We have never done this. Vietnam, you went for 1 year. Korea, 1 year. World War II, the average tour, I think, was 18, 19 months, maybe something like that. I am seeing resumes, and I know you see this, Dr. Royster, you know, with 13 tours, 9 tours, over 15 years of war or war-like RB, repeated blast exposure. This is criminal. We have to stop this. Well, it's not criminal because you don't know. We didn't know. But now, not only do we have to change, we have to go back and address this to all the other veterans that have served that are not here. We have to try and make this right because it is a huge problem. When you start thinking the scale of this, going back and addressing all this improper treatment and improper, you know, punishments that have taken place only because guys and girls served in the military and were EOD or whatever. It's horrible to think about, but it has to be done. No.
Yeah.
And we've got to put on our big boy panties, and we've got to go out there, and we've got to do this. We have to make it right.
I agree.
Or big girl panties, you know, whatever you want.
Same.
Same.
No, I love that, and you know, same thing when you transition out and get the mental help you need before fully transitioning out. Don't you get like a 4-week program or something? Let that be part of the 4-week program. You transition out.
Well, you can if it's properly done. Like most of these MTBI clinics, these amazing clinics. So we have 2 problems. You go there, you get therapy, all right? You get tons of therapy. You talk to Dr. Royster all day. Great. You got music therapy, air quiet therapy. You get therapy out the yang. But you don't get the treatments that could heal. You don't get assessed for brain damage, and then you don't get the treatments to treat the brain. And then what happens when you leave there? This thing is not in your backyard. It's at Bay Pines. It's at the NICO. It's at these military installations. What if it's 100 miles away? How do we build a scalable system that can treat veterans no matter where they're at? That's the other part of the problem right there. But it can be done. It can be done. You just gotta
have it on every damn base. Why would you not have it on every base? You have everything else. Put it on the base.
You're absolutely right. Yep. You could have a cold plunge tank, H-bot, everything, and you just go in, schedule time, go in there, and start the healing process. But it's not available yet. It's going to happen. It's going to happen, man. It's going to happen.
I think it should be made mandatory.
It should be. Absolutely.
So
there's no reason why it's not.
Let's put that in legislation too while we're at it.
Yep, baby steps, man.
Well, I mean, and I'm a Canadian, and here I am, you know, like, let's do it. Hey, I have the shirt. It's A. Oh, I should have put my A-team shirt on.
I pick on her all the time. I'm like, this one's from Canada.
Yeah, this is the first time she said it.
But,
I actually said it myself this time.
Yeah, I usually say it.
You would,
but you know, it's amazing that she devotes so much time to helping us. She doesn't have to. She don't have to do anything. No. She chooses to, and we need more civilians to choose to help us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your service. Ooh. Okay, you want to thank me?
Help me.
Be part of the problem, or be part of the solution, not the problem. That's what I always say.
Yep.
Even helping by just saying, like, sharing what you heard tonight on this podcast to somebody else, writing a letter to your Congress or to your. There's no reason why we can't even start here in Canada as well, because I know that the U.S. veterans are not the only ones that have these problems. I know we have here in Canada as well.
Yeah, the fastest growing sport in women right now for Canada is rugby. And I went to a conference that was basically paid for by the NFL. And this girl went up there and she had a grant from the NFL and USA World Rugby. And she said, and I quote this, "It's not rugby if you don't tackle." I yanked her aside after. I said, "Did you just get up there and promote the tackling for young girls?" She goes, "Well, you know, that's what the rugby players say." I go, "Do you have any idea what it's doing to their brains?" And she finally said, "Well, yeah, you're kind of right." I was like, you think? I said, "You are promoting basically child abuse up there. And then I looked at her grants. You know, she got all millions of dollars in grants to push that narrative that rugby is safe, that shaking the brain is safe. So all these girls are now starting to play rugby. They're getting trained how to tackle, taught to do something, and under the guise that, oh, this is absolutely safe. And it's not. It is not safe. It's inherently not safe. It's risky, and it's damaging these girls. And I was so upset about that. I was so pissed, man. And then it was just, and you know, and any dude that gets up there, and as soon as they have to say, well, I got my fun at the NFL, it's all narrative. It's all, and they show up at these brain conferences trying to convince people that what they know that scientifically is not right is okay. It's not okay. And it's not okay unless we want to start writing a check, and we're not doing that right now.
Well, I mean, if you just look in the last 2 years, how many NFL or the hockey, whatever the hockey is.
NHL.
Whatever, thank you. How many hockey players have taken their lives in the last couple of years? Like, it was at one point, every time I turned the damn TV on, there was another one, there was another one, there was another one. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yep.
You know?
RHI. And you won't get them to, now they've moved no check to 11, but it's still too early. And why, just so you know, and all your viewers know, the prefrontal cortex, the most important part of the brain to be an adult. You cannot function without a functional prefrontal cortex. It's right behind the forehead and takes 80% of the trauma. If you have a damaged prefrontal cortex, you have a damaged adult. Guaranteed. And if you play contact sports before the age of 14, which is why we say at least please wait till high school, you are damaging your kid's brain. And you wonder why they're on Ritalin, they got ADHD, they got all these mental health issues. Well, maybe you should look at what your kid is playing as a sport, because that is the first indication that a brain is damaged, is that the child is mentally ill. And everybody's going to say, well, somebody touched them as a child, or they did this, or was it? It's never contact sports. Oh my God. Oh, hell no. Can't be hockey or rugby or football. Oh, it is. It is. And we have to face this. And it's a big issue. Big issue.
Yeah, you were talking about NHL, and Chris Simon is somebody who recently died by suicide, and they firmly believe it was caused by CTE.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Guarantee it. Where you find massive amounts of RB exposure, you have suicides, and that's the other part, is 95% of our corners out here have no idea what RHI is. So these kids commit suicide. None of them are assessed. Like, if it wasn't for that corner took a 3-hour class on CTE. If he didn't ask me that question, did your son play contact sports? I mean, I was so depressed, man. I didn't know what I was going to do. Yeah. And so. We have to educate so much of our society right now to start doing the right thing. Think of all the families that never got closure, that just think their kids went and killed themselves because of whatever reason, making shit up just to feel better, And if they knew, oh my God, he played contact sports, and that's, bad on all of us for letting him play, but we didn't know. But now that we know, we got to make this right. Yeah. Once you no longer have an excuse, you are liable for your actions. That's why informing parents is so critical right now.
Yeah. And unfortunately, so it takes something tragic to get this rolling. That's just like, it's funny. My parents used to smoke. Well, they would smoke with us in the car. Well, we didn't know that was bad for your lungs or nothing like that. Meanwhile, I have asthma and all this shit. Why? Because, hey, mom and dad smoked in the car, but they had no idea that was that bad for them. Or like back in the day, you would give your baby a bottle with the cigarette in your mouth. That's not that bad for little Johnny. But meanwhile, years later,
you rode your bike without a helmet. You didn't wear seatbelts in the car. You could get in the back of a pickup truck at 55 miles an hour. All these things were done because we didn't know. Well, now they're not done because we know. We need to know about this. This is the most. I mean, I don't even think it's nefarious. I think it's that people just don't want to know. The research is there, the science is there, but the advocacy has never been there, and that's where we're going with it. That's why being on these podcasts, and I thank you so much for allowing me to come on, excuse me, it's so important because we have to get the word out. Every time we talk to a parent, we give it, because our book is for free. You can tell your viewers, they go to that website down there, they click on book, they can download a free copy. We don't charge any money for that book at all. That is a free guide. I'm working on the second edition. If God would make these days a little bit longer, I got to finish this book. But every time we give away a bracelet, we could have saved a life. We could have made a family, stay together longer and have more memories together. Just all this good's coming out of this. And unfortunately, you're right. It took one huge tragedy that, changed my life in a way that I'll just never be the same, but, I'm just trying to find and make as much good out of it, that as I can before I go. I'll see my son again. I'm not worried about it. He's already told me he's waiting on me. I'm not worried about it.
Amen. Well, see them on the other side, but we just don't have to be in a hurry to get there.
No.
He's always with you in your heart, Bruce.
I got a lot of asses to kick before I die. I tell you that right now. So that's what I'm working on.
Yes. Well, any way we can help you, let us know. Getting the word out, helping you in any way possible, let us know for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I cannot thank you enough for having me on. This has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate it. Let us know whatever we can do. We're now tied. We're all family now, man. So we'll keep you posted on all. You can follow me on X at Bruce Mac Parkman. I do a lot of Xing nowadays, and we got we'll get the podcast out there. We're working on a movie now, so we got a lot going on, and you're all part of the journey. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I have one final question that I will ask that I usually ask everybody on this show.
Go for it.
What is the one thing that nobody knows about you?
The one thing that nobody knows about me.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this is something that I recently found out. Well, first of all, I don't think I'm my father's kid. That's why he beat me so much when I was a child. That I'm actually a nice guy. I finally found myself after. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I have created this persona called Pac-Man. Most people don't even know who I am. My kids call me Pac-Man. My wife calls me Pac-Man. It comes from my name, Parkman, but being in the Army from Boston. Pac-Man. They call me Pac-Man. And this Pac-Man guy, he holds the Guinness World Record. He's been a Green Beret. He started a bunch of companies, been very successful. He's run ultra marathons. He wrote a book. He started foundations. He's this really, really big guy out there. But he's actually just an older man that wants to do good. He's got his head on straight, made some mistakes. He wants to do a good thing in life. And he's just a good, quiet old guy that likes to spend time with his wife on his boat. And he's not Pac-Man. So that's what.
Wait, you got a boat?
I got a boat, man. I actually got my Coast Guard certificate. I do charters. I take you out there.
I don't want to charter. I just want to jump off it and dive.
Oh yeah, I mean, what, like scuba dive?
Yeah.
Oh, no problem. I don't know where to take you, but I'll get you out there, man.
Well,
we do sandbar. So where I come from, sandbar is a verb. So we go sandbar every day. So that's what I do.
Okay.
Yep. I'll back that boat up.
Next time I'm in Florida, I'm going to go diving with Tiny Bubbles, and then I'm go and meet Marzak, and then we're going to go out on Pac-Man's boat here.
Yep. I got a ramp on my boat. You can go jump off. I'm a scuba diver. I'll chuck you in there. I don't care. Just make sure you come out. And I don't know where any wrecks are or anything like that. But you find the wreck, I'll take you out there. I'll drop you, and boat will anchor it, put up the dive flag, and you guys go for it, man. All good.
That's amazing. I got a dive flag. Don't even worry about it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll go get some dive tanks and we'll do it. I'm an old combat
I
diver.
love it. That would be
He's done.
amazing. I would love that.
Yep. All right. Well, let me know when you're in the area.
I'll see you. We can go anywhere. Thank you so much for being on this. Your story is absolutely made me cry. But at the same time, like, the world needs to be aware. So this is definitely put on LinkedIn, Facebook, Roku, YouTube. Like, we're gonna get you out there. But if you would stay on after we disconnect so that we can keep chatting, just want to say thank you, bless you for all that you do, sir, and I will see you August 22nd.
All right. Well, God bless you. Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity to talk in your show, and thank you. I just thank you so much, and we'll see you both later on the boat.
All righty.
Yes.
Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in and watching this episode. Go check out Bruce's website, www.mpfact.com. Go check that out. Go get your copy of the book, and let's help these children. Let's save lives with their children, with our veterans, and let's make a change in the world. The mission is to change the world, and I have that sign on my desk, so it continues with this episode. With that, guys, be unstoppable in all that you do, and join us again next week, same time, same channel. Bye for now.
Be safe.